Greetings, my name is Ian Beabout, and welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm just back from an incredible experience and adventure in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Just a caveat up front, I'm totally exhausted. It was about an 8.5 hour drive both ways. The purpose of the journey to Chapel Hill, North Carolina was, of course, for the ProgDay festival. This is a yearly event which has been going on for 30 years now. Next year will be the 30th anniversary. This is 8 bands over the course of 2 days, all celebrating different corners and expanding the definitions of what progressive rock and progressive music can be. Although this was a festival that initially was run more or less by committee, now it's pretty much Michael Bennett's baby. He's my boss, for lack of a better word, when it comes to the festival. And he's also largely responsible for booking the bands and dealing with the venue, the food caterers, everything involved with making this a pleasant experience for everyone. My involvement in the festival began in 2013 when I was looking for something to fill the Nearfest-sized hole in my heart. And so I went down and checked it out, and within a couple of years, I was working it. You know, I started off like doing the parking lot thing. I'm going to move my mic a little bit. Sorry. I started off doing the parking lot thing where I would hold a sign up and say, you can park here. It wasn't a job that I took particularly seriously at the time because I was just kind of excited to go to the merch table and hobnob. Somehow, I guess it was noted that, hey, maybe we should give this guy more responsibility because I became the stage manager. And it was a position that, you know, it's not like a normal job where I would have shadowed somebody for a couple of weeks and kind of learned the ropes. It was a job that I accepted without ever particularly understanding what it was. And I've spent the last 5 or 6 years, not counting the 2 years that we lost the pandemic, learning the ropes. I really feel like this past weekend was the first time I came into my own as a stage manager and kind of fully understood what it means. This is not a review of the ProgDay Festival. There are a number of reasons why I won't actually review the music. First being that there is the conflict of interest concern. It's not like I'm paid a lot for it, but I am paid to be there. So consider this more of a video diary of what the festival is. And it's going to be framed, of course, by my experience, which is working behind the scenes. With that in mind, I will tell you who played and kind of just a little bit about the experience. So we had Sons of Ra at 10:30 a.m., and these guys were incredibly heavy and intense and kind of metal jazz in a sort of John Zorn, Naked City sort of way. We also had Jack of the Clock, who are a band that I'm actually pretty good friends with, particularly Damon Waitkus, who's, if you remember the old Deep Cut show, I think he co-hosted a couple of times. I think I interviewed him a few times. And I've actually reviewed their new album, The Warm Dark Circus. We also had Janel and Anthony with Mike Kuhl. That's Janel Lepin and Anthony Pirog. I actually worked a little bit on one of Janel's records, and we got to hear a little bit of the ensemble Volcanic Ash material, and she was playing cello, and the cello was doubling as both a bass and kind of melodic presence, and they were certainly very interesting. Finally, on Saturday, we had the Jane Getter Premonition, who were probably the closest to a typical so-called progressive rock band. And they were perhaps notable for including Adam Holzman in the lineup, of course, who is known for working with Miles Davis in the late 80s, as well as more recently, he's been on every Steven Wilson solo album, I think, since Grace for Drowning in 2010 or 2011. And just recently, Wilson has announced a new tour, and he's the keyboardist. So really incredible musician, and a great opportunity for me to meet him and to work with him. So Sunday morning, we started early. It says 10:30 on the program, but we started 15 minutes early. Birdsongs of the Mesozoic, who I was thrilled to see, and the reason why I was thrilled to see them is because I had worked with Roger Clark Miller, who was, I believe, a founding member of that group. He's no longer with them, but there was still that connection that I had worked with somebody who was involved with the group. And I hadn't actually realized until long after the show that this is the first time Birdsongs had played in quite a long time. It was a reunion performance for an early Sunday morning. These guys, I think I said that they were like what might happen if Igor Stravinsky had a rock band. And I feel like this is a apt description because I have an early record of theirs where they do a version of The Rite of Spring, and it's very heavy. These guys also were interesting in that they didn't use like a conventional drummer, and I'm not sure, but I don't think they even had a conventional bassist. And they were running a lot of backing tracks through the PA system, and they were playing to them, and then they were also adding extra percussion. Like we kind of split up the drum set and put it around the band, and it had this very chamber music meets rock and roll thing going on that I found totally unique and interesting. Up next at 12:30 lunchtime, we had PAKT, which is a super group of sorts being promoted by Moonjune Records. And I realized far too late that PAKT is a take on their name. Bassist Percy Jones, who's known for Brand X, and also appearing on a couple of Brian Eno albums that I love. Let me get the rest of these gentlemen's names. So part of my responsibility as stage manager is I'm putting together this book, which has everybody's stage plot, which is a visual representation of how they will be oriented on stage. And as you can see here, each member of the band is mentioned, and PAKT equates to Percy over here. Let's say Alex and Kenny and Tim. So this was a completely improvised set, which was very unique. Unfortunately, it was interrupted by the weather because, and I guess I should set aside a little time to talk about this. In putting together a festival like this, there's always an unknown factor. And so I always try to prepare best I can by having everyone's requests and stuff in a book and handing this out to the stage crew, the monitor crew, the sound guy, make sure that this is spread around as much as possible among the crew, because there's always the X factor, the thing that you never predict will go wrong and inevitably does. On Saturday, we had issues with the weather, and also Sunday we had issues with the weather, but they were quite different. On Saturday, the issue was that it was oppressively humid and extremely hot and sunny. And the audio equipment, the mixing boards, were suffering as much as the human beings performing and attending the festival. And by the time Jack of the Clock, for instance, came on, they were dealing with a board that wasn't responding due to the heat and its age. It was over 10 years old. And we had to get a new board in. It was going to take 90 minutes. And one of my responsibilities as stage manager was keeping the festival on time. So we ended up saving about 45 minutes because somehow we were able to get fans on the mixing board. They were so hot that you could literally fry an egg on them. And once we did get them cooled down, they were still temperamental. And we were dealing with feedback problems, with odd buzzes, and strange little technical gremlins. And it wasn't until the Jane Getter Premonition went on Saturday that we were able to get a new board in. And we didn't have any problems of that nature. However, on Sunday, back to PAKT's set, PAKT had to clear the stage because we got a torrential rainpour just right in the middle of their set. And it's like you were looking at the weather app and it said it was sunny and hot. And meanwhile, the farm is getting pounded. So these things happen, and it's part of the contract that you enter into when you set a festival outdoors. There's always these unpredictable issues. And as much as you can predict the weather, you can say there's a 50% chance that this will happen. The odds are it probably will. That tends to be how things happen. And so PAKT had to leave the stage early, and this had the result of saving us about 25 minutes. Like we gained about 25 or 30 minutes. So we were able to get the next band, Squeaky Feet, on a little early. And this band, I don't think they consider themselves progressive rock. This is one of those bands that kind of pushes the definition. And I think all of the bands who performed pushed the definition of progressive rock in some ways. But these guys were sitting on the line between prog and like a jam band. And they were very young. I think most members of the band were my age, if not even a few years younger. It was actually a very enjoyable set. And I think they got to play for their full amount. Finally, on Sunday, we had Yang from France. This was the return of Frederick, the guitarist who had performed with Shylock some years earlier. And they were kind of an avant-garde rock band, sort of in the style of King Crimson. It was double guitar, bass and drums, and they brought a considerable amount of energy that surprised me. There was a lot of like moving around on stage and really getting into the music. It was a real shame when a huge gust of wind came through and about took the roof of my tent off. And that's when people started to panic, and we were getting severe weather alerts of things potentially occurring, like 50-mile-an-hour wind gusts and pea-size hail. And the weather service was advising that folks take shelter. I will admit, I got a little scared. I got anxious. And the sound crew, who, by the way, were absolutely top-tier professionals. I saw Dan Fowler, who was in charge of the back line, diagnose a electronics issue where we were dealing with European plugs because this is a band from France. And we lost time in dealing with this, but I saw Dan save the day by getting the combination just right, switching out AC adapters and just like blowing on it, saying a few magic words, and it works. And that was one of the most impressive things I've ever seen. But what we couldn't stop is that there's apparently a regulation in the sound industry that if there is lightning strikes within like 10 or 15 miles, you have to shut down for a certain amount of time. And the monitor guy, Ben, kind of tapped me on the shoulder and said, we're going to shut down. And I thought it was time to go. Like, I thought we were going to get hammered. I packed up and left because, my job was essentially done at that point. I didn't have to pull anybody off stage at any particular time. The weather seemed to be doing that for me. And as soon as I hit the road and left the farm, I got hit by a deluge, like zero visibility rainfall. And I thought for sure that Storybrooke Farm had turned into Woodstock, the muddy Woodstock. But apparently the field saw very little of it. And they came back on and did another 10 minutes, and I missed it, which I'm very sad to admit that I didn't get to see the final 10 minutes because I thought Yang were quite good. The funny thing is that it seemed to rain all night and continued raining until 10 o'clock Monday morning. So I'm just shocked that rain never touched Storybrooke Farm and that they were able to finish playing about 10 minutes or so to the 5 or 6 people who were brave enough to withstand the elements. Yeah, the only downside, the thing is that, several folks have mentioned that they wish they had more of a chance to talk to me. And having worked the festival a few times and, this being maybe my 5th or 6th year working it, that is one aspect that is kind of lost when you work something that is generally entertainment for most people, is that you don't really have the opportunity to engage with people, friendships and such. And, this is a shame. And, it's even a greater shame that the after party, the pool party, was impossible. So I couldn't go sit at the pool and hang out with people like I normally would. And so I was kind of, I kind of lacked that aspect of the experience, but I still feel like it was totally worth it to get to work with musicians, with a wide range of experience. You have the Squeaky Feet guys who were perhaps in their mid-20s or early 30s, a young, hardworking band who brought all their own instruments because they were on tour, compared to an Adam Holzman or Percy Jones, who are well known and have had a long and successful career. I got to work next to these folks almost equally. And I really enjoyed that experience a great deal. So yeah, I have to say that I didn't get to really enjoy too much of the music because I was constantly thinking 3 steps ahead. When's the next band going to go on? What do they need? How are they going to set up? But, that was a valuable experience to me too, organizationally. And I want to thank and, really extend my appreciation to Dan Fowler and his backline. See if the sound crew, I don't think the sound crew is listed, but Ben, the monitor guy, Josh, who was working the backline as well, and of course Mike Potter from Orion, who was running the sound. I think these guys pulled off some incredible feats and battled the elements to make this festival extremely successful. Also, of course, to Michael Bennett himself, the festival producer, and Debbie Bird, who was handling ticket sales and kind of the accounting aspect of it. And finally, my stage crew, Sean Geist and Todd Werner, who were handling kind of the bass tech and the keyboard tech, respectively. Everybody really put in 110%. And I think we managed to reach a compromise with the elements and produce something once again that was very special. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I know this is a little bit off the beaten path for me of talking about kind of older bands and older releases, but I thought it was worthwhile to discuss this experience and also to promote ProgDay a little bit, because this is a festival that happens every Labor Day weekend, and it has this is the 29th edition. Next year will be 30 years. So you can mark your calendar, like Labor Day weekend, this is happening. And if it's something you think you might want to check out, I encourage you to do so, because it's always a lot of fun. All right, that's it for me for today. I hope you enjoyed it, as well as some of the clips provided. Please feel free, if you're watching my channel for the first time, to like the video as well as subscribe to the channel. I would really appreciate that, because I will probably be talking about more ProgDay bands in the near future, because I plan to do a review of the new Bent Knee album. It just arrived, and Bent Knee played there several years ago. That was one of the best shows I've ever seen on the field. But also I'll be going there next year too, so I will probably cover it and be posting stuff. Also, if you attended the festival or just have any questions about my involvement or what occurred over the weekend, feel free to leave me a comment, and I'd be happy to engage with you. Once again, I am leaving my Amazon wish list in the description just in case you would like to gift something to the channel. It is my birthday coming up, and anything that you gift to the channel has a chance of being either used in research for video, if not directly featured in a video. So if you're in a position to do so, I would greatly appreciate a gift or donation. All right, my name's Beabout, and you will hear from me real soon.